Hello and welcome to my War Club guide. The War Club is a really unique weapon since it is extremely fast, blunt, deals low damage and has a long reach. Many players consider the War Club to be one of the worst weapons because the weapon being blunt and dealing low damage makes group fights extremely difficult if you don't know exactly what you have to do. In this guide I want to tell you precisely that and also additional tips and tricks in order to perform well with the War Club and see its true potential. I have gathered the 6 most important tips for the War Club and some of these tips can be a real game changer. Alright, now let's start with tip number 1 and also one of the most important tips. Heavy attacks do not stop on hit. The biggest problem most players have with the War Club and blunt weapons in general is that light horizontal swings and light overhead attacks stop on hit unless you kill the enemy that you are hitting. This is why you mainly need to rely on heavy attacks when fighting multiple people, since heavy attacks will cleave through your enemies and not stop on hit. So in order to hit multiple people at once, you must incorporate heavy attacks into your gameplay. Many beginners and also a lot of more advanced players don't know this and just stop using blunt weapons entirely because they think that blunt weapons are useless in group fights. But use heavy attacks with caution since they drain your stamina and your secondary weapon as Devastator is really bad. So you really don't want to drop your War Club because of low stamina. Alright, now let's move on to tip number 2. Utilize your reach and dash frequently. The War Club has a really long reach and you definitely have to use this to your advantage. In many situations you will be able to hit your enemies while they will be too far away to hit you because their weapons most likely won't have such a long reach. So if you utilize your reach and combine it with dashes to quickly gain some distance to your opponents, you can truly become unstoppable with the War Club. But just like with heavy attacks, you have to keep an eye on your stamina when performing dashes since they also drain your stamina. Tip number 3. Focus on counters. In contrast to riposte, successful counters will not make you lose stamina. Since you need to rely on heavy attacks in group fights which cost stamina and your dashes also cost stamina, you want to preserve as much stamina as you can and successful counterattacks can help you out a lot. But keep in mind that countering with the War Club is extremely difficult because it is such a fast weapon which results in a small counter window. So overall it is hard to master but can truly be a game changer. If you don't know the difference between riposte and counters, watch my beginner's guide and jump to the timestamp that says riposte and counter. Tip number 4. Use your special or sprint attack against distracted enemies. Your special attack and your sprint attack deal a good amount of damage considering the War Club deals relatively low damage. So whenever you see an enemy that is distracted, for example because he is fighting one of your teammates, using your special attack or your sprint attack can be a good idea in order to inflict a lot of damage in a short time frame. But keep in mind that performing a special attack will leave you vulnerable during the animation, and also keep in mind that special attacks will drain a good amount of stamina, so you would be better off not using them when you're already low on stamina. Tip number 5. Accelerate light attacks and delay heavy strikes to throw off your enemies. Since the War Club is one of the fastest weapons in game, it can be really confusing for your enemies when you're delaying a heavy strike. On top of that, accelerated light attacks with the War Club are extremely fast. So if you combine exceptionally fast accelerated attacks with delayed heavy attacks, you can really throw off your opponents because the difference in speed of these attacks is so huge. If you don't know how exactly accelerating and delaying your strikes works, you can watch my beginner's guide and jump to the corresponding timestamp. Tip number 6. Treat your stamina like your HP. Stamina management is everything when using the War Club. If you're low on stamina and still in the fight, you will most likely die, just like when you're low on HP. This is the case because your most important actions like dashes and heavy attacks cost stamina, and your secondary weapon as Devastator is really bad. So if you lose your main weapon because of low stamina, you won't be able to defend yourself really well anymore. So every time you're low on stamina, consider retreating for a while, identical to when you have low HP. Alright, now let's get to the secret bonus tip. If you want to be as effective as possible with the War Club, then you simply have to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of the upcoming videos. As always, thanks for watching and see you on the battlefield.